Sometimes the people who share your last name don't share your heart. You feel the distance, the coldness, the strange silence that makes you wonder if you're the problem. But what if that distance is not rejection, but divine protection? Chosen one, listen closely. There comes a moment, so quiet, so strange, when you look around at your own family and realize something feels off. The love you thought was unconditional begins to feel conditional. The people you trusted the most start to seem distant, cold, even quietly resentful. You try to justify it. You tell yourself it's in your head, but then the smiles feel empty. The hugs feel hollow. The conversations feel forced, like a performance. And deep inside, something whispers, they don't love you the way you love them. It hurts. You blame yourself. You replay memories. You wonder what you did wrong. But chosen one, God saw this before you even noticed. He heard what was said behind closed doors. He felt the envy hiding behind the compliments. He watched the way they celebrated everyone else and remained silent about you. And because you belong to Him, He will not allow you to remain where love is fake and loyalty is poisoned. God is not just removing people from your life. He is rescuing you from spiritual warfare, disguised as family gatherings. This is not rejection, it's redirection. Not punishment, but protection. And in this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 divine strategies God uses to remove family members who secretly don't love you, and how each painful distance is actually a sacred intervention. So stay until the very end. Your soul needs this clarity. Your spirit needs this truth. Your future needs this revelation. If this resonates already, like this video right now. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and join us. And comment 99 below. Because 99 is the number of the sheep God left the crowd to save. He's coming for you. Let's begin. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when God begins to whisper through whispers your spirit can feel, but your mind can't fully explain. It starts subtly. You notice a shift in someone's tone, a sudden coldness in their eyes, a strange silence that wasn't there before. The words are the same, but the intention behind them isn't, and you feel it, even if you try to ignore it. Your spirit senses what your emotions aren't ready to admit, that someone in your own family is smiling at you while secretly rooting for your downfall. God reveals the truth gently at first, never to terrify you, but to prepare you. He begins with spiritual nudges. A conversation that once felt natural suddenly becomes uncomfortable. A relative who used to encourage you now gives short, dismissive answers. You leave gatherings feeling drained instead of loved. You catch a subtle glance, a strange reaction to your blessings, a forced congratulations that feels more like a warning than support. And you think you're imagining things, but you aren't. That's the first layer of God lifting the veil. Because God knows that if He showed you everything at once, it would break your heart. So He lets the truth leak in slowly. He exposes the envy beneath their questions. He highlights the resentment behind their silence. He lets you sense the manipulation hiding behind their acts of concern. God allows the atmosphere to shift so you can see their spirit instead of their bloodline. This is not cruelty. This is strategy. Spiritual strategy. Heavenly protection disguised as discomfort. When someone carries darkness in their heart toward you, God makes sure you stop feeling safe around them. Not because He wants you afraid, no, chosen one, because He wants you aware. Awareness is the first step to deliverance. Awareness is the first step to freedom. Family wounds cut deeper than any other pain because they come from people you were taught to trust without question. But God refuses to let you walk blind into emotional traps. When He sees jealousy brewing against you, when He sees conversations happening behind your back, when He sees someone rejoicing when you struggle, but growing bitter when you succeed, He intervenes quietly. He lets your discernment sharpen. He lets your peace disappear around the wrong people. He lets your mind feel unsettled by what your heart still wants to love. And here's the twist most people don't realize. God reveals intentions not to expose others, but to educate you, to teach you to differentiate between familiar faces and genuine hearts, to help you stop confusing proximity with loyalty, to break the illusion that blood automatically means safety. He shows you the truth because there is a mission on your life that cannot coexist with hidden hostility. Every uncomfortable moment is a message. Look closer. Every strange silence says, something is wrong here. Every sudden shift is God softly tugging your spirit away from danger disguised as family. And just when you begin to notice the signs, just when your intuition grows louder than their words, just when the pieces finally start fitting together, something even deeper begins to happen. The atmosphere itself starts changing around you, revealing the next layer of truth you never expected. And that is where things become even more intense. Because what God shows you next will not only shock you, it will force you to confront a reality you didn't know you were strong enough to see. Peace is not just a feeling, it is a spiritual alarm system. When God is trying to protect you, the very first thing He touches is your peace. Peace becomes tight, heavy, fragile. It starts slipping through your fingers whenever certain people walk into the room. You don't even understand why, you just know that something inside you shuts down around them. And that is not random, that is not mood, that is not you being dramatic. That is spiritual intelligence. That is God speaking in the only language some chosen ones pay attention to, the language of discomfort. You begin noticing it slowly. Conversations that used to feel natural now leave you overthinking for hours. Their presence used to be routine, but now it feels like a weight pressing against your chest. You walk away from a simple visit, feeling like your spirit just ran a marathon it never wanted to run. Your energy dips. Your joy disappears. The atmosphere around them feels tense, muddy, suffocating, like your soul is trying to escape, but your body is forced to stay. And here's the part you can't ignore. People who drain your peace don't need to argue with you to damage you. They don't need to shout. They don't need to insult you. Their spirit alone carries a heaviness that collides with your calling. Their energy fights what God planted inside you. Their presence silently crowds your thoughts, distracts your focus, or awakens insecurities you thought you had healed years ago. That's because your spirit is evolving, and theirs is resisting that evolution. When God sees this spiritual imbalance, this silent sabotage, He begins a process that feels confusing at first, but liberating later. Connections lose their warmth. Conversations lose their rhythm. Text messages slow down. You struggle to find words. They struggle to show interest. Communication begins to die, not because something is wrong with you, but because God is unplugging your spirit from what was never meant to stay connected. Every forced visit is a sign of divine interruption. Every drained interaction is a warning. Every moment your peace collapses around them is God stepping closer, saying, "I'm removing what threatens your growth." God is pruning your environment, cutting away emotional noise, trimming every relationship that pulls you backward instead of forward. Peace is sacred, and He guards it like a treasure, because from peace, your purpose grows. Some family members don't drain your peace with actions. They drain it with intentions. With resentment, they never admit. With jealousy, they never speak. With judgment, they hide behind advice. And God sees that. He sees what your heart tries to excuse. He knows the invisible pressure you carry when you're trying to prove yourself to people who already decided not to understand you. He knows the emotional exhaustion of sitting at tables where you're tolerated, but never celebrated. So what does He do? He interrupts the cycle. He lets relationships fade. He lets invites become rare. He creates distance, sometimes through misunderstandings, other times through sudden changes in circumstances. Not because He wants you lonely, but because He wants you free. Because here is the truth every chosen one must face. Your peace is part of your anointing, and anyone who weakens it becomes a threat to God's plans for you. He refuses to let your purpose suffocate under the weight of someone else's unresolved bitterness. He refuses to let your spirit drown in environments that no longer match your calling. And just when you begin to accept this divine distancing, just when you start realizing that losing certain people brought more peace than keeping them ever did, something unexpected happens. God shifts the atmosphere again, preparing you for a deeper truth, one that reveals why this separation was not just protection, but preparation for the next unveiling. There comes a point in every chosen one's life when God begins to rearrange the path beneath your feet, not because you did anything wrong, but because your destiny requires a different atmosphere than the one you were raised in. The calling on your life is not ordinary. It carries weight, it carries responsibility. It carries a spiritual signature that not everyone around you is meant or even able to comprehend. And because of that, God cannot allow every familiar voice to walk with you into the future He designed. Some voices would weaken you, some would confuse you, some would chain you to a version of yourself God already freed you from. Some family members don't attack your calling with words, they attack it with doubt. Every dream you share, they shrink. Every idea you express, they question. Every spark of faith you try to nurture, they extinguish with negativity disguised as realism. It's subtle, but dangerous. Because doubt from a stranger stings, but doubt from someone you love can derail destiny. God sees the effect it has on you. He sees the way your confidence trembles after certain conversations. He sees how their disbelief slowly begins to contaminate your ambition, and he steps in before the seed he planted inside you is strangled by voices that never believed in you to begin with. Others try to pull you back into old patterns, old habits, old mindsets, old versions of yourself you fought so hard to outgrow. They remind you of who you were, not who God is forming you to be. They bring up your past, not to celebrate your growth, but to keep you tied to the ground when God is calling you skyward. They feel threatened by your evolution because your growth exposes their stagnation. So they tempt you with comfort, familiarity, and old cycles that feel safe, but steal your progress. God watches this spiritual tug-of-war, and he refuses to let your future be dragged backward by people who refuse to move forward themselves. So what does he do? He separates. He pulls you away gently at first, through distance, misalignment, misunderstandings, shifting schedules. Then more directly, through sudden changes, closed doors, and internal nudges you can't ignore anymore. This separation is not punishment, it is preparation. Before God elevated Abraham, he commanded him to leave everything familiar, because destiny demands clarity, and clarity cannot grow in the noise of old expectations. Chosen ones walk roads others can't interpret. You'll feel drawn to things that make no sense to the people closest to you. You'll feel compelled to make decisions that look irrational to those who can't hear what God whispers to you in private. Your obedience will challenge their comfort. Your spiritual hunger will challenge their complacency, and your transformation will challenge their unwillingness to change. That's why God creates divine distance, not to isolate you, but to isolate your calling from sabotage, doubt, and spiritual contamination. When God separates you, your world may feel quieter, but your spirit becomes sharper. You begin to hear him more clearly. You start recognizing what was blocking you, distracting you, or slowing you down. You realize that some people you begged God to keep were the very people delaying what he wanted to release in your life. And suddenly what felt like loss becomes revelation. What felt like loneliness becomes alignment. What felt like abandonment becomes elevation. But here's the twist. The separation is not the final stage. It is only the doorway. Because once God removes the voices that limit you, he starts revealing the next layer of your journey. And what he shows you next will challenge everything you thought you understood about divine protection. There is a kind of pain that only family can create, a wound so personal that it doesn't just cut the skin, it cuts the identity. And that is why distance from family hurts in a way no other separation ever will. It feels unnatural, it feels wrong, it feels like losing a piece of yourself. But what most chosen ones don't realize is that sometimes the very space that breaks your heart is the only space that can save it. God knows you cannot heal in the same environment that taught you to doubt yourself. You cannot recover in the same atmosphere that normalized emotional neglect, comparison, or silent competition. You cannot rediscover your worth in a place where you were trained to shrink so others could shine. So God in his mercy does something radical. He removes you. Not because you're weak, not because you're running away, but because the environment that shaped your wounds is incapable of shaping your restoration. In the beginning, the distance feels like abandonment. You replay old memories. You ask questions with no answers. You wonder if you could have tried harder. But slowly, almost unnoticeably, your soul begins to breathe again. The constant pressure to perform disappears. The need to defend your choices dissolves. The fear of being misunderstood fades. Without the emotional noise, you begin hearing something you forgot existed, your own voice. And in that silence, God begins to work. He touches the broken parts you tried to hide. He rewires beliefs you absorbed without noticing. He dismantles lies that were spoken over you so early in life they felt like truth. And one by one, the chains start falling. The need for approval, the fear of rejection, the guilt of becoming different from your family's expectations. Healing does not happen in chaos. Healing requires quiet. Healing requires space. Healing requires distance. As the days pass, you notice something else. Your identity begins returning to you. Not the version of you shaped by their opinions, but the version shaped by God's intention. You start seeing yourself through his eyes, not theirs. You stop apologizing for your growth. You stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. You stop feeling responsible for wounds you never inflicted. Little by little, you rise. And in this rising, confidence begins to rebuild. Not arrogance, confidence. The kind that comes from truth. The kind that comes from clarity. The kind that comes from realizing you were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people who offered too little. The kind that comes from letting God separate you from voices that wounded you, so He could reintroduce you to the one voice that heals you. Then something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation altogether. You no longer feel the urge to earn love that should have been freely given. You stop bending yourself into shapes that please others but destroy you. You stop trying to resurrect relationships that God Himself allowed to die. Instead of seeking permission from people, you start receiving revelation from God. Instead of trying to fit in, you begin to stand out with purpose. Instead of clinging to what hurt you, you embrace what is healing you. This distance, the same distance that once felt like punishment, becomes the birthplace of emotional freedom. It becomes the sacred space where you remember who you are, and more importantly, who you were never meant to be. It becomes the boundary that protects your heart, your peace, your calling, your future. But here's the twist. The deeper the healing goes, the more God begins revealing something even more unsettling. Something that will shift the way you see every relationship in your life. Something that will prepare you for the final transformation that's coming next. A truth that exposes not just the wound, but the motive behind it. Something your spirit has been waiting to understand. There is a kind of revelation that doesn't arrive through visions, prophetic dreams, or dramatic moments. It arrives through something far quieter, far colder, far more honest. Silence. Silence is not empty. Silence is not passive. Silence is not accidental. Silence is a spiritual X-ray, and God uses it to expose what words would have forever concealed. When communication begins to fade, when the calls stop coming, when the conversations thin out until they become nothing but echoes, something profound is being revealed. Not about you, but about them. In the beginning, you feel confused. You wonder why the people you poured into suddenly have no time for you. Why the ones you encourage never check on you. Why the relatives who claim to love you only show up when they need advice, money, emotional comfort, or a place to unload their frustration. But the moment you stop giving, they stop showing. And this hurts. It hits in a place deeper than pride. It hits in your trust. It hits in the childhood belief that family love is constant, unshakable, guaranteed. But here is the truth most chosen ones never see coming. Distance does not create the absence. It reveals the truth that was already there. Silence is not the cause of the disconnect. It is the evidence of it. God allows silence because silence cannot lie. A person who loves you will not disappear when you stop serving their needs. A person who values you doesn't go silent when you elevate. A person who cares about your heart will not vanish simply because you're no longer available as their emotional safety net. And yet, many do vanish. Not because you changed, but because you stopped being useful to them. Their absence becomes their confession. Their silence becomes their testimony. Without arguments, without explanations, without dramatic confrontations, God reveals the truth. Some relationships were never anchored in love, only in convenience. This is where the revelation deepens. You begin to recognize who reached out only when they wanted something, who celebrated you only when you were struggling, who felt threatened when God began to bless you, who stayed close not out of loyalty, but out of habit, or worse, out of dependence. The moment you step into healing, growth, purpose, or boundaries, they retreat, because your evolution interrupts their ability to use you. Silence becomes your filter, the divine sieve that separates the genuine from the false. Those who truly love you will stay present, even when you're quiet, absent, busy, distant, or focused on your purpose. They will find a way. They will show effort. They will remain consistent, even when life shifts. But those who only love the benefits of you, your empathy, your generosity, your listening ear, your stability, your emotional labor, will evaporate when you stop giving them unlimited access. At first, this truth feels like betrayal, but then something miraculous happens. It becomes liberation. You stop begging for the love you deserve. You stop shrinking to stay connected. You stop apologizing for your growth. You stop explaining yourself to people who never intended to understand you. You stop feeling guilty for choosing peace instead of chaos, purpose instead of nostalgia, alignment instead of attachment. Because now you finally understand, God didn't take people away from you. He took the illusion away from you. He removed your blindness. He revealed their intentions. He exposed the truth not to break you, but to free you from relationships that would have sabotaged your destiny. The silence that once terrified you becomes the silence that empowers you. It becomes the confirmation that God is positioning you for something higher, something purer, something aligned with love that doesn't shift with circumstances. But here's where everything intensifies. Because once God exposes conditional love, He prepares to unveil the final, most transformative truth, the reason He allowed every separation in the first place. The truth that will change how you see your past and redefine how you step into your future. Chosen one, breathe for a moment. Feel what is happening inside you right now. Every revelation, every moment of clarity, every truth that cut deep but healed deeper. None of it was random. This entire journey has been God positioning your heart for this exact awakening. You were not listening to a video. You were stepping into a new identity, a higher dimension of understanding. A spiritual elevation that only the separated, the misunderstood, the wrestled with, the chosen ever get to reach. Hear this with everything in you. God never removes someone to punish you. He removes them to protect you, to reposition you, to prepare you. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What looked like abandonment was actually alignment. What you thought was loss was rescue. Every closed door was a shield raised over your spirit. Every broken connection was God pulling you out of spiritual danger. Every moment of silence was Him cleaning the atmosphere around your destiny, and every painful distance, every tear, every confusion, every season where you felt alone was actually God clearing a path for the version of you He always intended to rise. You didn't lose people. You lost chains. You didn't lose family. You lost the spiritual weight that was suffocating your purpose. You didn't lose love. You lost the counterfeit that was blocking the real thing from reaching you. And one day, not far from now, you will look back with the eyes of someone healed, someone awakened, someone strengthened by divine separation, and you will realize something powerful. God wasn't taking people away from you. He was taking you away from people who were never aligned with your calling. He was elevating you above environments that would have crushed your purpose. He was protecting the anointing on your life with a fierce, unshakable love only a father could carry. Chosen one, step into your next chapter with boldness. You are lighter. You are clearer. You are spiritually sharper than ever before. What God has removed, He replaced with destiny. What God has exposed, He healed. What God has shifted, He sanctified. This is not the end. This is the rise. This is the moment heaven rewrites your story in real time. If this message touched your spirit, if you felt God speaking in ways you didn't expect, comment, "God protected me," below. Let it echo. Let it resonate. Let heaven see your faith, and let others feel the power of this truth through your testimony. Your healing has begun, your destiny is calling, and God Himself is walking you into it.